Welcome back to Networking with Nathaniel. This is episode 28. I'm here with, I didn't ask you if I'm going to say this right, but Nick Pedrick. Seems simple enough, right? Yeah. Nick is actually he's been a member of Sub 2 since July of 2021. Holy moly, yeah. So you've been in for a long time now. Um,
Yeah.
he's he's actually one of the first people that I kind of met in Sub 2 when I was going through some drinking through from the fire hose troubles, like didn't know where to kind of to what direction to go to, and he offered some great advice, which I unfortunately I didn't take it at the time. I'm starting to take it a little bit now. Nick's a husband, a father of two. I didn't ask boys, girls, a 7 and 5 year old. Um, and he's doing some direct to agent and a little bit of direct to seller. Now we're incorporating, which I'm sure we're going to get into. But before we get started, hey, pleasure having you here, Nick. It's been a long time. I'm glad to reconnect with you. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me. I don't remember the advice I gave you. Do you remember what I told you?
It was along the lines of why did you get started in real estate and kind of starting with the end in mind. We got started to buy and hold. Why aren't you just like
Doing buy and
putting
holds, yeah.
pieces buy and hold? And I didn't my naivete at the time, I don't know if that's saying that right, but I was being naive and didn't think like, oh, you could just start with the end in mind. I saw the point you were making and kind of was like, well, this is starting with the end in mind, wholesaling, so we can generate income to buy the fix and flips. But if you just go, well, I mean, not the fix and flips, but the buy and holds. If you just go, well, how do I buy and hold? Start just literally figure out how to buy and hold. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, it took us a couple years of doing everything else to, you know,
Well, mistakes are always made in that
yeah,
in that field all the time. For me specifically, right? Like if I want to be doing something, sometimes I find the way around easier for some reason instead of the direct route. But we realize that the more direct you are, the more you're doing the one thing that you want to get good at, the more reps you take, the more, you're doing whatever you need to be doing, the better you get.
yeah,
And that was a hard lesson I had to learn because obviously, I mean, we're on our second iteration of a wholesale business, right? That we started back in June. When we first joined Sub 2, we were doing direct to seller cash deals in Baltimore, Maryland, which was really tough at the time because everyone was able to sell anything, no matter what, way over value because we were right
yeah,
at the heart of COVID, right? So we were trying that for a while. We spent a boatload of money on VAs and just rocking and rolling and doing all that stuff. And we maybe did 3 or 4 transactions in the course of 6 months. And those 3 or 4 transactions didn't even make us whole with all the money we spent on VAs and gathering data and all the other good stuff that comes with it, right? So a lot of my advice it comes to people being like, well, what if you spent your time focusing on the thing that you're really inspired about, right? Because we all learn in Sub 2 and then in other books that I've read in other communities, like using other people's money is a powerful tool. Why don't you get good at them?
yeah,
Um, and for me, like that took a while because we ended up shuttering that wholesale business. We jumped into buying a boatload of properties, fixing and flipping and buying holds and things in different areas across the country, using other people's money, learning what's good, learning what's difficult, learning how we probably shouldn't be borrowing money at a premium of 20% for 3 months or 6 months or whatever it is. Um, but that experience has brought me to the point where I'm like, oh yeah, I get this now. I understand how I can do this, but it really comes down to being a little bit more patient and focusing on how to get good on raising capital and structuring those capital deals to make a deal work for you. And if it doesn't work, don't force it, right? For me, wholesale was always like that a nagging, thorn in the side where it's like, yeah, we can make money here, but am I really am I creating a job for myself or am I building wealth and passive income? And the reality is that you're creating a job.
yeah,
That's what it comes down to.
yeah.
Um, so right now we're doing a lot of that's my wife. Right now we're doing a lot of wholesale direct agent stuff, but it's based on the fact that we're using those relationships in areas that we want to work but also areas that we're looking to buy.
Okay.
So it has the end goal in mind of, okay, we really want to focus on building portfolio in these spaces. So why not we do the relationship thing, we do find potential deals, and if we don't want to buy them, we'll wholesale. And that's how it was born, right?
Okay.
So it wasn't just creating a massive wholesale business. It was like, well, let's focus on sourcing deals, and in the meantime, when we're not buying something, we'll kick it off. And the one thing that I learned myself in this industry is that I'm not going to do it on my own anymore, right? I'm going to find people that are good in different spaces that I'm not great at, and I'm going to make a little less money than I could if I did it on my own, but I'm going to be able to do more because they're taking a lot of load off my plate.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And you,
And
so yeah, there's a couple questions I have. The kind of like the last one there is you mentioned you're doing in multiple markets. So I would imagine that you need people in each one that you can trust. You mentioned you're, meeting other wholesalers and stuff. Are you doing the dispo for these deals that you don't want yourself, or is that one of the things that you're delegating, or yeah, maybe not delegating,
yeah, no,
partnering up
it
with?
wouldn't be necessarily delegating. It's a partnership of three.
Yeah.
So, I created this business with two other people, Mike Ferruzzi, who I talked about previously, and then our partner Dominic Inglesi. Dominic Inglesi runs our Dispo and JV
Okay.
side of the business. So he goes in and helps people, get rid of the deals that they're struggling to get rid of, or comes in and dispose our deals, right? Me, I'm full acquisitions. I'm building a team and I'm trying to lock in deals every day with agents and sellers and all that good stuff. And then Mike is our like back office admin slash transaction coordinator.
Okay.
So those are three legitimate departments,
Yeah.
and three could be even three separate companies in themselves, right?
Sounds like, yeah.
Um, and when you think about all the hats that people wear when they do this business stuff, they want to make whole 100% of what they could make off an assignment fee, right? When in reality, you could do that. But if you get to three, four, five, maybe let's say you have the capability to do 10 deals a month on your own, you're not going to scale too much farther past that without a team behind you, right?
Right. Yeah.
You're going to be overwhelmed. You're going to be running around like crazy. You're going to be doing a lot of paperwork. You're going to be doing a lot of contracts. You're going to be negotiating with 10 other people. And at the end of the day, once we figure something out and we pass it off, it might get passed back to us to do something, but our jobs are 10 times easier because the whole of the process is taking off of one person and divided into three parts.
Yeah,
It's,
you're saying that getting to, 4, 5, 6 is a struggle when you're just by yourself. But man, I was finding it when we were just doing one a month. Like, I can't do this anymore. I like not on my own at least, I got to figure it out. And we started partnering up or the dispo side with a couple other wholesalers and that we knew in the different markets that we were in. Like, you know what? I don't want to. It's not that I didn't want to do dispo, but I just can't handle both. Like if I'm doing dispo, it means that I'm not calling, I'm not doing my follow up on the
yeah,
acquisition side. And you did mention, there it is really three separate departments. Um,
and yeah,
the
for sure.
integrator
And
stuff is
we're
its
treating
own.
them like that. We learned from
Yeah.
a couple bigger people in the industry right now. Um, by listening to what they've done or what they've done, like Bash Bros or is a good example, right? They had a really great Zoom call. I can't remember exactly what it was, but they it's in the vault. And they talked about how acquisitions and Dispo are completely separate businesses under the single umbrella. And when you look at your business in that way, acquisitions can acquire leads that you get straight from yourself, right? From the lead sources that you're bringing in. But then you can also close deals for other people that might be struggling and trying to get their first deal, or people that might need to restructure, or individuals that have never done creative before and feel like, they've done a ton of cash and realize like, oh, I have a potential creative deal here. Let's bring somebody in to run the numbers and see what they can do. For Dispo, it's the same thing, right? You have dispositions of the things that we bring to the table from straight from our lead sources, or you can dispel other people's deals that they locked in that they have, like you said, no inkling or idea of how they can market it, nor do they want to,
Right.
right? And then you have other like avenues for dispo or JV partnerships and other things and wraps and all that other good stuff that the dispo department can take care of. And then how many people in sub two right now are top tier TCs, right?
Yeah.
They're building businesses Individually, I'm just handling other people's transactions. So
Yeah.
technically, we could have three different income streams, all revolved around the same business
Yeah.
with three different departments under that umbrella, and that's where we're pushing everything to, right? Like our company might want to take on some more people outside of our company to start doing TC work, right? And then we have Dom really going out there and JVing with other people and bringing me in when I need to contract something, or he's signing JV agreements with other people to dispo their deals. And that puts us in a position where we have a lot more opportunity to make a decent amount of money for everybody,
Yeah.
right?
It's funny the way you're describing the dispo and the TC. It's almost like they have their own little acquisitions arm inside of themselves because in order for him to find people to JV with for dispoing, I think you said
Yeah,
Dominic, yeah, he's got to go find other opportunities. So yeah, it's interesting. Um,
it's true. Yeah,
when you're able to
100%.
yeah, when you're able to split the compartments up like that, how you can kind of zoom out and see it from a higher level and all the pieces that go together. Um, so you started out with Mike, and then where along the way did you meet Dominic?
Dom and I actually met about 2 years ago as well. And it was right after we were done with our wholesale stuff. You're like,
Okay.
whatever, we're done with our wholesale stuff. Dom came in and was like, I'm going to need help contracting this. He was just posting a bunch of stuff on Facebook. I was like, let me see what this guy needs. Reached out to him on Facebook on sub two. He's like, I got this X million dollar deal in Florida that I'm trying to contract and I don't know what to do with it. And he had a couple partners that he was working with at the time with their budding wholesale business as well. And they were focusing on Florida, Tampa, and a couple other markets. I came in, I spoke to the seller multiple times. We were able to get a good deal going, and he was able to get a traditional sale, like literally out of the blue for the whole thing that helped him, you know, fulfill his needs, right? And then we got through that process, it was like a month or two process. We got to know Dom really well, and we realized that like we could do something together past wholesaling that made sense for all of us to put all of our energy and effort, another team thing, right? All our energy and efforts on something that we really were passionate about. And at the time, we were focusing on Morby method um, portfolios and apartment buildings.
Okay.
So we went full bore into that. We jumped right into um, like talking to as many brokers as we possibly can and structuring Morby method deals with as many property like people that we possibly can get
Okay.
on board. At one time, we had six under contract,
Wow.
and we
Wow.
only finished one of
Okay. Yeah, that
them.
I've never dived into a Morby method transaction just because I see how complicated they are and how
Oh
it's
yeah,
got to be a very specific need that it's filling.
it's very complicated. We enjoyed the process to a certain extent, but then we started to realize how expensive that process is because if you're
Mhm.
going to get a DSCR loan, right, what comes with traditional financing or private money financing that's structured in a traditional way, right? You have to pay for appraisals, you have to pay for inspections, you have to do
Mm.
all these other things that you weren't necessarily banking on spending, right? So we probably spent close to $20,000 to $30,000 just in appraisals for all of those deals that didn't go through,
Wow. Yeah.
including E&Ds that were hefty to get the properties under contract because you're working with realtors that are like, oh, we only do things a certain way.
Right.
You know what I mean? So now you're coming to the table with 1 to 2% of the purchase price in earnest money that you
Yeah.
didn't account for. So now you have gators over here and you have money that you're spending over there. And if that transaction doesn't come through, you just owe a lot of people some money,
Yeah, they still
right?
want to get paid. Yeah.
Yep. So we were able to get out of those deals, and a lot of that money that we used was sourced from another partner of ours that was part of the deal, which was lucky for us. But at the same time, like we had to make those people whole. We had to go out and get the money. We had to do the things that we needed to do to start really focusing on building back our partners that may have lost some money with us being super rash and gung ho about Morgan method. So
Yeah.
we've made a ton of mistakes in anything that you can think of, right? Which is some of the best and worst parts of this industry, right, is that you're never going to nail
Mm.
things on the head when you first go around. You're going to have
Yeah.
to learn a lesson or two. You're going to have to really fight through the obstacles that are in front of you. But if you can be consistent and get through those humps, you're going to start building a business that makes sense, that can be consistent and then start producing. Our problem was shiny objects, right? Okay, this isn't working. What's next? Okay, what are other ways people are making money?
Yeah.
So we finally decided to, a year and a half out of that, create a wholesale business built on creative strategies and cash deals that we understood was not going to be easy to build straight
Mm.
from the bat. Like we know this isn't going to be perfect from the start, but we have to keep pushing forward, right? And hopefully, month 6, month 7, month 8, month 9, we're seeing consistency because our actions are consistent every day,
Mm.
right? Regardless of the lag indicators, the things that we're able to complete, we're showing up every day, we're doing what we need to do. And at some point, things are going to click, and we believe that strongly. And we have a vision that surpasses, just us making, a couple bucks a month on 4 or 6 deals a month. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Absolutely. Well, yeah, and there's a lot to go on there. So
Excuse me.
you have a bunch of fumbles here that's leading you, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but you said you wanted to create a wholesale business, but it almost sounded previously like the wholesaling was secondary to you're looking for deals for yourself, and if they don't work for yourself, then you're wholesaling. Is that right?
It's one and the same, right? We
Okay.
created a wholesale business because we realized that everybody we talk to, we're probably going to buy one out of 20 deals, maybe one
Okay.
out of 100, right?
Okay.
So in the meantime, how are we making active income?
Yeah, okay.
So instead of waiting for the 1, 2 deals or buying a bunch of deals from wholesalers that are really expensive, let's be the wholesaler that sources our own deals. So when we get a good deal, we come to the table with significantly less money than we have to, or we wholesale it for some cash.
Yeah.
And we have active income on the side. So and it was born in the sense of let's find our own deals and source our own deals. It was developed by wait a minute, if we're going to look at a bunch of properties and all of our strategies are based on long-term rent or something that's going to take some time to cash flow, how are we making money now, day
Mm.
to day?
Yeah.
So wholesale is definitely the easiest and quickest way to make money for sure, but it takes time, energy, and effort to build it up to a point where you're able to make decent active income. And at the same time, we're sifting through all of our leads to be like, what do we want to cherry pick before we put it on the market? Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it's that's not backwards of what I was thinking, but yeah, kind of similar. Um, you're really just picking the cream of the crop ones, the ones that are like screaming home runs, it sounds like, and then the one you're just going, okay, this pass these other ones off. Let's keep our cash, active cash coming in and holding it for in your war chest, for buying the ones that work. Yeah, okay. So, how long has it been since you made this pivot? With the three different department heads and, you're really going at six-ish deals, like you're saying, a month. How long have you been doing this wholesale operation?
This specific company we started at the end of June, beginning of July of last year.
Okay, so
Um,
eight.
we were starting it with another partner. We had somebody that was going to be like full on acquisitions, and then they reached out to us being like, "Yeah, I don't really want to do this right now."
Mm.
So we were like, "Oh, okay, that's fun." Then we had another partner that realized wasn't going to pull their weight, so we looked at the three of us and said, "Can we do this job
Mm.
right without those other 2 people, or do we just want to figure something else out?" And the three of us really enjoy each other, really like what we do. We get along really well, and we hold each other accountable in a really great way,
Mm.
right? So that's when we pivoted into the wholesale business. When we decided to keep everything in separate departments was more of a recent thing, right? We in fall this coming year, I've spent a lot of time, energy, and effort learning the business, growing the business, figuring out where to go, what avenues to get better. How do I become a better leader? How do I do this
Mm.
effectively? How do I? And we were melding each other's like roles pretty heavily, right? Okay, you're dispo, but when you need to talk to a buyer, I would get on the phone and talk to the buyer every once in a while. And it's like, well, now I'm spending time away from acquisitions to talk to your buyer, and then the TC stuff. I was a TC for a little bit during the time that we were buying properties, and that part, like I'm pretty familiar with paperwork, but I'm not really great at service,
Mhm.
with that stuff. So I was like, okay, I'll help Mike with the paperwork and do all that other good stuff, right? And then in reality, it's like, well, if I'm spending time here and you're spending time in here and you're spending time in here, we need to really separate and stay in our lane. That's number one, right? And then number two, it was like, well, if we're all staying in our lane, how can we maximize income in each department? Okay, we need to start JVing with other people's deals and we need to start going out there, which Mike is learning how to do right now, the top tier TC stuff. But it's part of our stuff down the road is to start taking clients with TC. And then for me, I should be contracting my deals and other people's deals as much as possible for a piece. So now we have income coming from our own leads, income coming from other people's leads, income coming from transaction coordination from other people's deals, and income coming from dispositions of not only our own deals, but other people's deals.
Yeah. Mm.
So stacking efforts on top of each other to make a nice big pot of count of money that we could divvy up in a good way.
I think that this answer is probably going to be kind of on a case by case basis, but let's say that I wanted to come, I had a lead that I wanted you to close. It, are you just doing the closing part, or in order for me to work with you, are you saying like, hey, we got to dispo this too? Because I see it from both sides. Like, if, if
Have
you're
like
gonna,
a controlled
yeah,
system there. So if you're like, I got a lead, I want you to close it. Okay, you're just wanting us to close it, or do you want us to handle the paperwork?
okay,
No, I have a TC. I just need you to come in here and do the terms. Okay, cool. Do you have a buyer lined up, or would you like our team to dispo it? No, I think I can dispo it. I have a bunch of buyers that are looking for it. I just need these terms. Okay, I can come in and close it for you, and I'll take X amount. Right? Is that good for you? And that's how we negotiate with JD partners.
okay,
Right?
yeah, that's kind of what I was figuring the answer would be. Like, but if I brought you a lead and I'm like, I don't have buyers, then I would assume you go, okay, we got a dispo department. Well,
We believe strongly that everybody that brings their leads to us is their data and their leads. And the us coming to us for help, we will pitch them on how we can help, and they have to make the decision on how they want us to help. And everything costs a little bit of money, right?
right,
If we are going to be handling the transaction and closing it and doing all the stuff, we want our own TC, not someone else's, right? Which is we just had so much experience working with TCs that are supposed to be great or TCs that, fumble the ball at the last second or literally do not tell us what's going on throughout the
mhm,
transaction. So we have no idea what or how to help and anything that might come up down the road, right? So we like when Mike does the TC work because, hey, Mike, how are we doing? How can I help? What's going on? Like, and he'll be open and honest with us about what to do and how we can make this work, right? If something happens in the transaction, the TC is usually the first person to know about it after the contract has been created, right? And then we have to solve the problem. If that TC is just going to the other wholesaler and not us, we don't know how to save the deal. Does
right.
that make sense?
Yeah, and those type
Um,
of things you want to find out as
yeah.
early as
So
possible. Yeah.
when people come to us, we want to take control of it because it's not only about money. It comes down to we have the experience and the knowledge to get this done versus like we don't know anything about this TC over here. Does
Yeah,
that make sense?
absolutely.
Everyone's getting top tier TC stuff, and I have nothing against those individuals, and I'm sure they've learned really well and done everything, but everything's a business based on experience, right? And if that individual just started out top tier TC and is just handling their first 10 transactions, they still have a lot of learning to do. Just like people that have done 50 transactions, they're not going to be
Right.
able to see everything.
Yeah,
We know the issues that we've seen and we know how to handle them. And whatever we don't know, I have experience in other areas in real estate that I can bring to the table to see if we can crush that deal still or have to back away.
yeah,
Right. And I don't have a ton of confidence in some other people that are brand new using a TC that they was referred to them by somebody else that I don't know. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
absolutely.
Um, and I'm not trying to be rude or terrible about it. It just comes down to like, if I'm going to spend time, energy, and money on this, I want to know I can get something
Yeah. Yeah,
easily. And
it's
if the flip side of that is if we made a mistake and it fell through, there's no one else to blame
right.
but us. You know,
Yeah.
like,
That's a good place to be though, in my opinion. Like having like accountability for everything and being able to, say, oh, we dropped the ball on this, or
yeah,
it's solely our fault. And it
I'd
kind of,
rather apologize that I fucked something up
yeah,
than ask a lot of questions that might come off condescending or rude because I'm like, did we do everything right here? Like,
yeah.
what did we miss? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think too, like from all the experience that you have so far, your experience has led you to go, it's best if we keep it in house. We know that like these are the variables that we are able to control this way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I mean, we did
having
a
less
couple of
that you,
deals recently, right? Where we forego us bringing our TC into the table because the buyer had their own TC. That's the buyer's TC, not
Mhm.
our TC.
Right.
Buyer doesn't tell us anything that's going on.
Yeah.
Buyer works directly with that TC, and that TC represents that buyer in the transaction. And our TC still has to do work. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
And usually extra work because now he has to go in and talk to the
RTC
buyer
involved.
side and talk to
Yeah.
the buyer TC and then do all this other stuff. It's a pain in the butt. So we
Yeah.
learned pretty quickly that like, yeah, you have your own TC, but this is the TC that's working this. And if you want to hire out an additional TC to handle your stuff, go for it. But we're still working with this TC here
Yeah.
because they are controlling the front end and the back end to make sure this thing goes through. Where when we hand the baton off to your TC, we have no more knowledge and expertise and know exactly what's going on, and we don't understand where to go from here because that TC doesn't work for us, it works for you.
Mm.
That makes sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
Um, I know we're coming up on the half an hour mark, Nick, so I want to make sure that I'm respectful of your time here. Just really quickly, you mentioned off camera, well, yeah, off camera before we started recording, that you've started as direct to agent and you've recently kind of started dripping in some direct to seller stuff. Um, can you kind of tell me what the direct to seller side looks like, what you're doing there? Real quickly, and then I got two more questions for
sure.
you.
To be concise as possible, like direct to agent is a really popular strategy, right? So there's tons of competition there. We decided to bring in leads from specific cities that we're going to target with direct to seller stuff that we know that we can do cash deals or creative deals in and have individuals that we know, like, and trust that can go to the properties physically, look at
Mhm.
them, talk to the sellers for us, and be able to get some more deals done. The goal there is to have not only multiple streams of leads, right? But it's to be able to crush a little bit more return of investment on those deals because they're, I don't want to say cutting out an agent, but in absence, if we don't have an agent fee, we might be able to give the seller a little bit more money to walk away from the deal, right? Because that's a huge struggle. Like, how do we get to a point where we can sell this thing on the back end with the realtor wanting 3 to 5%, the seller needing $20,000, and the deal only costing $400,000, right?
Yep.
So that negotiation, there's three different negotiations that happen every deal. How about we cut out the one negotiation with the realtor
Yeah.
and go directly to the seller
Yep.
to talk it through and see if we can make something happen, right? And the second reason is that the competition is getting fierce out there with direct to agent stuff. That individuals are literally coming in ten to $20,000 more than what we're willing to pay on a deal just to get a contract and see if they can get it somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's not only putting a position of people that do try to work the numbers really well to get to a good deal for our buyer, it's putting us in a position where we're like, okay, well, we're getting torched left and right from other operators that are just starting this out right now. How about we work directly with the seller where we can build a better relationship and it's not all about money?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yep.
So, not that there won't be competition in that sector, there will, but it's easier to build rapport and like a reputation with a seller than it is to build with a realtor, where their only job as a realtor is what? Make the most money for the client.
Yeah.
that make
And
sense?
themselves. Yeah. Yeah.
Often themselves.
Yeah.
We literally had an agent tell us the other day, we can give your seller, X amount of dollars if you can reduce your fee to, I think it was like half of what she was asking for. And she's like, no, I want my money before my seller.
Yeah. So,
And I was like, oh, good representation there. I
yeah,
would
very
definitely have
nice.
to
Yeah.
for my next transaction for sure.
Yeah, so you're able to go take instead of having to say, "Hey, would you take 2% or 1.5%, down from your three?" Yeah, like you're saying, I've seen people that are just taking like 5%. You're the only one here. What the heck's going on here? Um,
Yeah.
but you're able to say, "Hey, the deal only works if I'm able to be in at 1%. So I don't need to worry about you anymore. I could just take that 1% and give it right to the seller and make them happy,
Oh
and
yeah.
everybody's happy." Yeah.
And we've gone around agents before that have been really unwilling to work with us in any
Mm.
way. And we're like, okay, you don't want to work with you don't want to do this, that's fine. We're gonna go to your seller. We don't tell us this, but we'll go to the seller and we're like, hey, did you get our offer? And they'll be like, no. And it's like, oh, we talked to your realtor about it, blah, 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 blah.
Mm.
Does these number work for you? And they'll be like, oh my God, yeah, I need this.
Yeah. I
And
want
the
to be done.
only reason why they're not signing on the dotted line, hi, I'm Leah. Okay. Hi, sorry. The only
No
reason why
problem.
they're
Yeah.
not signing on the dotted line is because they want more commission. They're
Yeah.
greedy enough to want more out of every transaction. And as a reformed real estate agent, I get it to a certain degree. You want to make money on it, but my business model was if I can help this seller
Mm.
move on from this tough situation and I take less, that seller's going to be more apt to refer me out to other people.
Yeah.
So I was always looking at future business. So I cut commissions all the time in certain scenarios that made sense for the dealer to cut my commissions after I couldn't find it from other avenues, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like helping other people should be more important than you making another $2,000 in a deal.
Yeah. Right. And we do probably, I don't know, I don't want to speak for you, but you know, it's not a majority of realtors that are not willing to work with you. It's a small percentage, but unfortunately, that small percentage gets represented a lot because those are the ones that
But
you're like, this guy won't budge, they're not doing anything. It's like I'm always reminded when I was growing up, like car mechanics had a really bad rap in the 90s, they were scamming you and it's like you just didn't want to
yeah,
be a car mechanic. Like, yeah.
yeah.
So,
Oh,
uh,
you need a new axle and a new
yeah.
battery and a new
Headlight
transmission.
fluid, yeah.
You're like, oh crap.
Before we go, Nick, it's been a pleasure, man. I know there was a couple things that I wanted to get into, but time permits. Maybe we'll just have to have you back on. Um, if somebody's looking to bring leads to you, got deals that they want to dispo through you guys, like what's the best way to connect with you for those purposes?
Sure. We have an email dedicated for that
Okay.
called sales at go, G-O, gorillas, GUERILLAS.com.
Okay. And is that for any leads to bring in, or is that specifically for like acquisition side?
That's anything.
Okay.
So if you have something you want to dispo, you have something you want to acquire, it goes through that email first, which is seen by our partner Dom and our individual that works with them closely bird dogging for us to
Okay.
qualify what we can do and how we can help.
Cool. And then how, like, if anybody wanted to reach out to you specifically, what's the best way to do that?
Dude, anytime you guys want to reach out to me on Facebook or Messenger or anything like that, I'm always open. If you guys wanted to give me a random call somewhere, I can't always guarantee that I'm going to pick up because I'm really bad on the phone, like having my phone around me.
Yeah.
But my number is 978-500-4636.
Okay.
That's my
I'll link.
personal cell.
Yep, that'll be
Have
in the
some
description.
fun.
Yeah, yeah. We'll send you some late night memes or something. No.
Oh yeah, yeah, no. People love texting, which is so funny to me because I grew up in that era, right? The generation where technology was a thing.
Hmm.
And I'm the worst texter in the world. I literally people are like, why aren't you responding to my text messages? I was like, oh, because I saw it and I told myself that I
Yeah.
would text it later because I was
Yeah.
in the middle of something. And then I completely forgot. And it's been like 4 days.
Yeah, that's how I felt over the past 4 days. A bunch of text messages I didn't respond to because we were all ill and just like, ah, I'll get to him. I'll get to him.
My favorite way of people contacting me is a phone call. Even if I don't recognize the number, I usually pick up because I'm like,
Yeah.
who is this?
Yeah.
And sometimes I like to see what kind of cold callers are calling me too, to see what kind of like things they're doing. Like,
Yeah.
hey, do you wanna? I'll get a VA every once in a while from a different country being like, are you gonna sell your home? And I'm like, oh, you from here? And they're like, yeah, I live around the corner. And I'm like, okay,
Sure,
where?
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. What street is it on? I know this neighborhood pretty well.
So I
I
have
like
some
the ones
fun.
I know that they're just, having had virtual assistants, cold callers, you have a respect for them because they're doing a job that I don't want to do for
Oh
sure.
yeah. Oh,
I like
100%.
the ones that are as soon as you give them a little bit of like pushback, they just hang up the phone. Like you can't, I just got,
Oh yeah.
oh
No,
man.
I had one stuck really strong with me, but
Yeah.
the problem that I had is that like we try to be completely transparent with every with what we're doing, how we're doing it, and
Mm,
where we are. Right. If someone asks where I am, I don't tell them I have a company nearby. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
I buy from out of state. I live in upstate New York, but we have a team in the area, right? Which is not untrue.
Right.
But some VAs are like, oh, I live next
Yeah.
door. I live
Yeah.
around the corner. I'm like, okay, what town? And they're like, they
Yeah.
will
Hold
open
on,
up
let
a
me look it up
map and
on
they're
Google
like,
Maps. Yeah.
this one right here, and they'll say they butcher the town, like we
Oh
live
yeah.
near a town called Schenectady, and somebody literally could not pronounce the Skenet part, so they were like Shenandoah, and I was like, I
Yeah.
don't think you live there.
Yeah, you don't live
I'm
here.
gonna
No.
I'm gonna call you out. I'm gonna
Yeah.
tell you right now, I do not believe you.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have to
Anyway,
lie to get leads. But it only
there's
leads to
so
problems down the
many
road.
people that don't care. I've met
Yeah.
so many realtors that are like, oh, you're gonna wholesale it. Thanks for letting me know. Yeah, I would love to work with you.
Yeah.
And there's other people that are like, oh, wait, you're gonna wholesale this? I don't feel comfortable. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, let's not do this then.
Yeah. Because
All right.
let's raise the red flag right now, then 2 weeks from now when we're supposed to be getting paperwork and stuff like that going. Yeah.
I've seen so many deals go south from other people because they're like, I'm buying this. And then all of a sudden the HUD comes out, the settlement statement, and the person looks at it and goes, who's whatchamacallit company? And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, it's my other company. And they're like, prove it.
Yeah. And why
They're
is
like,
this $10,000 fee going back and
yeah.
forth between them? Yeah. Ugh. Well, I appreciate you, man. For anybody that's just kind of, oh wait, no. What markets are you guys in?
For wholesale
Yeah.
or for buying?
Well, both, I guess, now that you're saying it.
Um, For buying, we're really focusing on multifamily stuff right now.
Okay.
So like 10 to 100 units we're really into. That's something that we can structure. It's something that we're learning how to syndicate for. It's something that we're learning how to raise money on. And we have a couple of people that we can bring deals to and have some fun with for sure. For single family homes, we really love San Antonio, Texas. We really
Okay.
love Houston. We really love Dallas. Oh, like everybody else, of course. We're getting into Jacksonville and Tampa. And we wholesale pretty much all across the country, right?
Okay.
From Las Vegas. The only states that we avoid is New York and California. We're probably going to stop working in Oregon because that's becoming really difficult to do subject twos.
Okay.
Um, there's a couple other states that are like Alabama is really difficult to wholesale because you have to create like a what is it, a disclosure for the seller to let them know that not only you're wholesaling, but how much money you're going to make for it. It's all that other
Interesting.
stuff that, you can be open and honest up front about it for sure and get a deal done, which wouldn't be an issue. But a lot of times when the seller is getting $3,000 and you're about to make 15, it stops the deal dead in its tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so that's kind of the stuff that we try to avoid is the really difficult places to wholesale because
Yeah.
it's all about return on time.
Yeah. If you
If
can
we're going
cut
to do
out a
something,
roadblock ahead of time, why, or if you know
yeah,
there's a roadblock there, why are you gonna go drive that way?
hell yeah. And
Yeah.
we love Florida, we love Texas, we love the Carolinas, and we love the Midwest, specifically Ohio and Oklahoma.
Okay. Yeah, we
Yeah,
love it. Yeah.
we can help in any possible way.
Okay.
Just let us know.
Well, I appreciate you, brother. I'm gonna let you get back to the
The
third that
grind.
you're in charge of. Yeah. It was a pleasure,
Thank
man.
you. Yeah, I appreciate you. Thanks, Nathan.